What's up, Menace soldiers? I'm the Alliance, and welcome back to the video. Today we are going to be tackling Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Now before I begin, I have already done the reviews for the previous 6 films of the Skywalker saga, so I'd recommend watching those first because I'll be bringing back arguments I made in those videos in this one. Like I said, I'd recommend it, but you don't have to. This video is going to contain spoilers because I will be doing a full in-depth review of the entire film. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to help out the channel, please consider liking, subscribing, and turn on notifications. Maybe check out my other videos, I'd really appreciate it. If not, that's okay, but that'd be really cool of you. And with that said, let's begin. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens came out on December 18th, 2015. It was the first entry of a Star Wars film in years, so Star Wars fans were absolutely bursting with excitement. Then the film came out and it seemed to be beloved by pretty much everybody. Well, at first. Let me explain. So what I noticed about these newer Disney-led Star Wars films and what they have in common is that when they first release, they initially appear to be beloved by everyone. But as time goes on, the movies show their faults and people begin to sway their opinion. It happened with every Disney film so far, and The Force Awakens was no exception. This film soon became known as a diet version of A New Hope, relying more on nostalgia and less on telling a unique story. But today we're pushing the fan backlash aside and we're going to examine this film on its own. So, is Star Wars The Force Awakens good? Is it bad? Or is it just okay? Let's check it out. Part 1. The Stormtrooper. On the desert planet of Jakku, the Resistance pilot Poe Dameron receives a map to Luke Skywalker's location from Lord Zan Tekka. Stormtroopers soon raid the village, commanded by Kylo Ren, and they capture Poe. Poe's droid BB-8 escapes with the map and encounters a scavenger named Rey near a junkyard settlement, while Kylo tortures Poe using the Force to learn of BB-8. Stormtrooper FN 2187, disillusioned by the First Order, frees Poe and they escape in a stolen TIE fighter. Upon learning that FN 2187 has no name, Poe gives him the name Finn. However, their TIE fighter is soon shot down and Finn survives and assumes that Poe died in the crash. He soon encounters Rey and BB-8, but the First Order tracks them down and launches an airstrike. Finn, Rey, and BB-8 steal the Millennium Falcon from a junkyard. Finn shoots down the First Order pursuers as Rey pilots the ship off the planet. So as far as the beginning of this film goes, the opening scene is actually pretty solid. It does a good job of introducing a new powerful threat in the form of Kylo Ren while still retaining the mystery of where he came from and who exactly he is. Now the Finn scene, that one's a little weird to me. Yes, I realize he was mainly just a janitor, but stormtroopers are raised to kill. So why would a fellow trooper's death affect him that much? It's one of those things that has always hindered Finn's character for me. I mean, I get the idea that maybe he only ever killed in simulations or something like that, but he goes from freaking out over a fellow trooper's death to killing a ton of them in a matter of hours. So while I like the concept of his character, I think that it could have been executed a little bit better. Now jumping to Rey, I actually really like her introduction. You can tell that she had been forced to take care of herself her entire life, so that adds to her a little like a firecracker personality, so I think that's pretty cool. Now for Jakku itself. Honestly, the planet kind of annoys me. And the reason it annoys me is because it's a discount Tatooine. But Disney has done this with a couple different things. Like, they take something existing in the lore of Star Wars, but they just kind of change it enough because reasons. In this case, Jakku is just Tatooine. Just not named Tatooine. And I know that the Star Wars universe is massive, so why wouldn't there be another desert planet that looks exactly like Tatooine? But if the viewer is already familiar with Tatooine, and all the other first films in the other trilogies had Tatooine in them, just make it Tatooine. You know, I understand maybe they didn't want people to think that they were copying A New Hope, and that didn't really work out anyways. Now, like I stated in my episode 5 review, the older Star Wars movies had symbolic elements that complemented each other. So let those symbolic moments flow through the story, Disney, because that's what makes Star Wars, Star Wars. For the rest of this part, I think it's pretty solid and a good start to the film. Part 2. Han Solo. A large ship piloted by Han Solo and Chewbacca captures and reclaims the Falcon. Soon, a few space gangs seeking to settle debts with Han attack the ship. And after that, Han and the others manage to escape on the Falcon. And aboard the Falcon, Han determines that BB-8's map is incomplete. He then explains that Luke attempted to rebuild the Jedi Order, but exiled himself when his own apprentice turned to the dark side, destroyed the temple, and slaughtered the other apprentices. So I think it's pretty convenient that Rey and Finn just happen to run into Han and Chewie. But due to the fact that the Force works in mysterious ways, I guess I just kind of have to let that one go. This whole Rathtar scene is just another instance of filler for me. I mean, I don't hate it, but its only real purpose is to just get Han and Chewie on the Millennium Falcon with our new heroes. And it's like, it's kind of just like, it kind of feels like a waste of time. Like I said, I'm not against the scene's existence, I just kind of wish it had more relevance to the story, instead of just feeling like it's here because reasons. Not to mention how every other character who got grabbed by a Rathtar got immediately devoured, but as soon as Finn gets grabbed, the Rathtar just decides to grab him and run around the ship. Like, why? That just never made sense to me. You know, maybe Rathars don't like seafood. Get it? Because Finn is his name, and fish have fins, and fish are seafood. So, get it? Near the end of this part, we also discover that Kylo is actually Han Solo's son. While I think it could have been a better reveal or twist later on in the film, I do think it's cool that it's kind of like, it's a ballsy move to take Han Solo and be like, hey, remember your favorite character from the original trilogy, Han Solo? Well, guess what? He's got a son who is now the new Darth Vader. So that's a twist for you. The rest of this part is cool too, with Han kind of explaining everything to Rey and Finn. It sets up a really big mystery to where Luke exactly is. And that of course drives our characters to keep moving forward. So while the beginning of this part starts off very forgettable, it ends pretty good with Han Solo kind of taking on the role of mentor to Rey. Part 3. The Lightsaber. The crew travels to the planet of Takodana and meets with the cantina owner Maz Kanata, who offers assistance getting BB-8 to the Resistance. Rey is drawn by the Force to a secluded vault where she finds the lightsaber that once belonged to Luke Skywalker. She experiences disturbing visions and flees into the woods, confused and terrified. And Maz decides to give Finn the lightsaber for safekeeping. Starkiller Base destroys a planetary system which is the home of the New Republic's capital and senate and a portion of its fleet. The First Order attacks Takodana in search of BB-8. Han, Chewbacca, and Finn are saved by the Resistance X-Wing fighters led by Poe, who had survived the crash from earlier. Leia arrives on Takodana with C-3PO and reunites with Han, who says that he saw their son. Meanwhile, Kylo had captured Rey and taken her to the Starkiller Base. So this part starts out pretty okay. It almost hints towards a possible relationship between Finn and Rey, and I always was just kind of okay with that, especially since both characters are alone in the galaxy and they're just kind of stuck. But now they're stuck together, and that's kind of a cool little thing that they have that makes their relationship cool. Rey's vision scene is so interesting, but also at the same time, it's so frustrating. Because it arguably raises the most questions from the film, especially the questions revolving around Rey. It's interesting because it makes you think and theorize, but it also frustrates you because the deeper you dive into the vision's hidden meanings, the more confused you become. The scene where the Death Star 3.0, not Death Star 3.0, I mean Starkiller Base, because they're completely different. The scene where Starkiller Base annihilates the Republic planets is really cool visually, but it also feels like a very empty scene too. Like, I'm supposed to care that the Republic just got wiped out of existence, but I haven't spent any time with this new Republic, nor do I know anything about them. This entire scene is meant to bring me down as a viewer, so later on when the Resistance do victor over the First Order, I feel more rewarded. But I think this scene misses the mark because we don't have any connection with this New Republic. I mean, sure, this New Republic is the good guys, so we should be rooting for them. But like I said, the emotional weight just isn't there because we just don't know anything about this New Republic.
Where'd you get that?
A good question. For another time.
No, Maz. No. I want to know that story right now. Tell me now. We'll get on with the rest of the movie then. But tell me that story right now, because I want to hear it. Last time we saw that blade, it was falling to the depths of Cloud City. So how did you come to acquire it, Maz? This is arguably the biggest question raised by this film, and we have no answer. And this could be a simple little 5-second line or something. Something like this. One out on a trash heap. The trash heap got taken to a trash planet. Scavenger was on a trash planet, found it, sold it to Maz. Boom. That's super easy, 10 seconds, and you just explained the whole concept of where it came from, and now we can move on. I like how this random stormtrooper should have been Captain Phasma. At least she would have done something in this movie. I think Poe Dameron's reveal is pretty cool though, especially since the last time we saw him, he was believed dead, so that was pretty good how they did that. So in all, I think this part of the film is pretty good in leading us into the final act of the movie, and while it has its issues, it feels, for the most part, as if it is actually adding to the narrative of the story, instead of just wasting time like the Rathtar scenes in part 2. So part 3, pretty solid. Part 4, the Super Death Star. On Starkiller Base, Kylo discovers that Rey can use the Force, and she later escapes using a Jedi mind trick on a guard. As Starkiller Base prepares to fire once more, the Resistance devises a plan to destroy it by attacking the main facility. Using the Millennium Falcon, Han, Chewbacca, and Finn infiltrate the facility, find Rey, and plant explosives. Han confronts Kylo, calling him by his birth name, Ben, and he implores his son to abandon the dark side. Kylo seems to consider his father's words at first, but ultimately refuses and kills his own father. Chewbacca, devastated over the loss of Han, shoots Kylo and sets off the explosives, allowing Poe to attack and destroy the base's thermal oscillator, which then begins a fatal chain reaction from the planet's core. The injured Kylo pursues Finn and Rey into the woods. Finn fights Kylo to protect Rey, but Kylo knocks him unconscious. Rey then takes up the lightsaber and channels the Force to defeat Kylo in a duel. They are then separated by a fissure as the planet's surface begins to splinter. Snoke orders General Hux to evacuate and bring Kylo with him to complete his training. Chewbacca rescues Rey and Finn, and they escape aboard the Falcon. As the Resistance forces flee, Starkiller Base implodes, forming a star. Back on Dakar, Leia, Rey, and Chewbacca mourn Han's death. R2-D2 awakens and reveals the rest of the map, which Rey and Chewbacca use to find the oceanic planet of Act 2 via the Falcon. After landing on a small remote island, Rey climbs a mountain and finds Luke at the summit. And without a word, she offers him his lightsaber back. The end. I think the mind trick scene is an example of the sequel trilogy not fully grasping how continuity breaking this ability is. In A New Hope, Kenobi used the mind trick to temporarily change a stormtrooper's mind. In this film, Rey uses it to make a guard release her, walk away, and drop his gun. Before, it was just like a little subtle ability from a masterclass Jedi. But Rey just controlled this dude, like mind controlled him, made him do things that were more than just changing his mind. So when I say continuity breaking, Rey could just start mind tricking every stormtrooper that crosses her path. She could possibly even get them to actually fight for her and potentially have her own little stormtrooper army. Okay, that scene, it's fantastic. The scene where they compare the size of the Death Star and Starkiller Base feels like it was only put into this film to make the viewer feel like there was more gravity to the situation. But instead it comes off being more like J.J. Abrams trying to make his movie seem different from A New Hope by saying like, look, this was the threat before, this little Death Star, you know, whatever. But here's this massive planet-sized monster cannon, you know, that's raising the stakes right there, and this is not A New Hope, okay? It's not. So, don't even ask, because it's not. I could just see him explaining this to, like, Kathleen Kennedy and some of the Star Wars execs. He's just like, this Starkiller Base? This ain't your granddad's Death Star. I have to hand it to this film for killing off Han the way they did. It was a very unceremonial death for such an iconic character, and you don't see that type of stuff very much. So while I'd prefer Han Solo live because, you know, he's the man, it was ultimately a very ballsy move to do, and gotta give the Force Awakens credit for that. For the final fight, I actually enjoy the grittiness between Finn and Kylo. It's clear that both characters are tired and wounded, so it's taking everything out of them to even try to fight. Now, while the fight was fine, the way Kylo defeated Finn should have been felt more. You know, Finn just got his spine sliced open. Do you know what I mean? Like, there should be some type of complication with that, but instead, I guess all he needed was a nappy nap, because in The Last Jedi, he's good. He's good to go. So another big issue I always had with this final fight between Rey and Kylo is that she is just keeping up way too well. We learned from the prequels that it requires years of training to actually be able to use a lightsaber correctly. For using a lightsaber and using the Force are two separate things. But Rey ends up whooping Kylo's butt, and I know he was fatigued, and yes, he was injured, but he's been trained since probably near birth to use a lightsaber. there should be no competition here. He should have wiped the floor with her. And I'd be okay if it was possibly like a lucky strike type of thing. Like maybe when Rey and Kylo were fighting, she's trying her best just to kind of keep away from him. And then Chewbacca maybe distracts Kylo for a second, which then allows Rey to get the lucky shot on him. You know, something like that I guess I would be more okay with. But in this case, it just ends up feeling not complete. And that's just not good to me because it doesn't make any sense. The movie then ends on a massive cliffhanger, both literally and figuratively, with Rey discovering Luke. But I think this was a massive mistake. The film should have ended like this. See, nice and easy, no Luke reveal. Chewie and Rey are off to find him at the end of the film, and hopefully by episode 8 he's not a disappointment. But all in all, I think this final part of the film is good. Not great, but it's good. And yes, there are definitely some issues, but I think it's a good finale to the film. So in conclusion, I think that this film is a very entertaining film, but it's also a very safe re-entry into the Star Wars universe. And while it shares a little too much in common with episode 4 and it kind of forgets established canon, it is still overall a very enjoyable film. So in the end, Star Wars episode 7, The Force Awakens is a decent film. It's not great, it's not awful, but I think it's good enough. And you know what? That is good enough. So that's my review for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. What do you guys think about this film? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What are some of the great things you like about it? What are some of the worst things about it? Let me know in the comments below. Let's start a discussion. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications for more videos. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.